we're going to look at this word dichotomy, which means opposite, which you should have seen, right? It was like there was happy moments and there was bad moments. But let's look at a couple of these words. One of these words was on your study guide called modernist. These are people, do they believe in religion? Yes, but they also kind of say religion doesn't have to be absolute because they also endorse science. So y'all saw this in the Scopes trials, right? John Scopes taught evolution, but was he a Christian? Yes, but he believed, yes, God created the world, but I also kind of believe in evolution. Okay, however, there's a group of people called fundamentalists that they believe in what? If they believe in science and religion, this is strictly religion. So looking at this, how many of you believe, yes, I believe in Jesus Christ, I believe in a higher God, but I also kind of believe in the sciences? Okay? How many of you know I'm entirely fundamentalist? The sciences are just weird stuff. There's no one in here that's a fundamentalist? Most of us are over here, right? We didn't want to admit it, but I know y'all were like, I'm going to raise my hand. But we have moved towards being modernist, right? Even the Pope, oh my gosh. The Pope has endorsed that evolution could have occurred. Okay? So who is the Pope now? Is he a modernist or a fundamentalist? Modernist. And that is weird for the Catholic Church because the Catholic Church has always been fundamentalist. So now let's look at this one. Do y'all know what urban means? Yes. City. Okay, so tell me what was going on in the city life. Okay, we saw it was moving a lot faster, right? We saw the speakeasies, we saw the people having a lot more fun, right? To go out for the nightclubs and stuff. In the rural area, we're making fun of this guy, right? He was like, we didn't do all that talk, we didn't come in with dresses like that. Those girls were doing floozy stuff, right? Mm-hmm. They had it different. So looking at Waxahachie, where would we have been? We would have been social conservatives, rural, right? Next thing, most of these social liberals are New England, New York, and in social conservatives, we are in the South and Midwest. What does it mean to be wet? You drink alcohol. You're violating the law. What does it mean to be dry? Okay, and so if you know about stuff, Ellis County is a dry county. What that means is we're not selling hard liquor. You could go into Walmart and get beer and wine and spirits, but can you go into, is there any liquor stores in Ellis County? You got to go out to Bear Creek. You got to go out to Garrett. I don't know how y'all know these places. You got to go out to Alma. Your parents driving you there and trying to make you go to sleep, get you in the car. You sit in the car. But now you understand Ellis County is a dry county. You have to go to Dallas or you have to go to Navarro. Yes, Eric.
We actually went down to Glen Rose for UIL, and like on 67, it's like right by the Johnson County line. There's a liquor store like not
and
5
on
feet from the county line.
Every single county line around a dry county leads to those liquor stores being right there because of dry laws. Do y'all get Dallas County? What do y'all think Dallas County is? Is it wet or is it dry? Wet. Okay, so now y'all realize Ellis County is. So we're on this side. This is that awkward conversation stuff that we're having. Catholics are over here because Catholics, yes, they have communion wine, but most of them are immigrants and they indulge in other ways and other vices. Over here we have white middle class. Over here we have writers, bohemians, musicians. We saw a new musician group. What was this new musician group? Jazz, but it originated from what group of people moving north? In what event in World War I? Great Migration. So they're moving up north, and most people, they're like, wow, some of the greatest jazz musicians were African Americans, but was Tin Pan Alley endorsing the African American musician? No, they would often take their music and they're going to have white musicians play it. Okay? So, Bohemians are just people who are like the hippies of this time. Okay, so it's just hippies. We could see it in the 60s. Farmers over here. We saw the Klan. We saw the Klan was a manifestation of intolerance and prejudice, right? They were against everything except Protestant whites, right? And there was a question number 10, right, that asked you, and it was like a huge, long list. Okay? They have more liberal lifestyles over here, and we have more conservative. So did y'all see that schism, that divide in society in the 1920s? Okay, and then we saw the highs and the lows within it. The next thing is I have our parties down here. We know from World War I that the Democrats wanted to sign the League of Nations. Does the United States sign it? No. They have more immigrants. They're southern. They're rural. In this area, they want low tariffs. Just like our Republicans are the opposite, right? They wanted the League. They're big business, laissez-faire, a little bit of rural and urban, and they want high tariffs. How do y'all feel about this dichotomy? You're okay? Okay, so now we're going to go to, and I didn't print this out for you because it's like no duh. Okay? But if you want me to print it out, I'm printing out a couple for the other class. What I'm going to do now is go to this note set that you have that has everything written out. And we're going to look at some political cartoons that have come out on the AP exam. But what I have to talk about is the changing morality. Do y'all know what morality is? Morals, right and wrong, right? And a lot of it stems from, and we have to go back to World War I. Could everybody live their life as they pleased during World War I? No. So what happened to our men? They went out to war, right? They were drafted. Did they have a choice? No. Okay, so what happened to women? They took the place of the men. What happened to African Americans? They went into it. They couldn't get into the military. Some did, but we're going to see that there's going to be some sacrifice. And if I were to tell you today that you had to fast till tomorrow, you couldn't eat anything till tomorrow, what's going to happen tomorrow? You're going to go to sleep. Just get it done, go to sleep, and then when you wake up tomorrow, are you just going to have a small meal? No. What are you going to do? So look at this. That's sacrifice, right? In World War I, we've asked our people to sacrifice. They went without, right? They went without having their men there, right? They went without being able to buy radios, cars, all of the things that they wanted of consumer items. And so because they sacrificed and went without, do I have an era in the 1920s where we indulge? And do we indulge gratefully in our vice? And so this is why this morality, we get new behavioral codes. We see people challenging, and y'all saw them going to the top of skyscrapers, right? They started challenging. They started trying to test their limits. And a lot of this stems from a double standard and what happens in World War I. When our soldiers go out to World War I, do y'all know what nation they were mostly in for the war? France. And they experienced Parisian women. Are Parisian women a little bit different than our Victorian women? Yeah. And so they come home after experiencing those Parisian women, and they come home and they look at their Victorian women, and are they the same? Mm-hmm. And so things change for women because of the way men experience women in World War I. And so they come in, and women are going to change that double standard. And I don't know if y'all know what the double standard is. How many of y'all know this? It's okay for a guy to stay out late, but it's not okay for a girl to stay out late. Yeah. Oh, the girls are shaking their head, yes. How many of you know if it's okay for a guy to start dating at a younger age than a girl? It's okay for a guy to go do dangerous things and not for a girl. Okay. That's the double standard. And women get upset about that double standard because there's a couple of things that encourage them in this time period. And one of them is being able to get the right to vote and being able to sacrifice. And this is what's going to transform that idea. And so women became more assertive. And again, what the Victorian woman, we used to see, they used to have courtships. I don't know if y'all know what a courtship is. You do nothing but just say you're with that person. If you're kissing, that's like you being married to that person. Is that changing in the 1920s with these women? And a lot of it stems from World War I. This new maximum is going to be eat, drink, and be merry. Indulge in your vices, even though what has happened to most of these vices? What if they're illegal? And so by making it illegal, doesn't it want to make people do it even more? When someone tells you no, you're just like, I'm going to go do it. I'm encouraged now. And that's what happens in the 1920s. That word no is such a powerful tool. Can the government even enforce prohibition? So what we're going to see, I kind of went over World War I. I've kind of gone over women. But we're going to see the same thing after World War II. But are women going to be so vicey in the 1950s? No. It's going to actually go the other way, and it's going to lean towards a more conservative consumerism. We're going to see that these urban areas are very impersonal, that you don't know your neighbors like you would in a rural area. We got to talk about automobiles. Automobiles, we know Ford made it affordable by the moving assembly line. But also, automobiles are going to aid the gangsters, right? How are they going to aid them? Oh, they're more mobile. They're fast. This is going to lead to bootlegging, them being able to go over. This is going to lead to the streetcar racing and eventually lead to, huh? NASCAR. Yep. Okay, also, when teenagers, well, I haven't developed the word teenager. I don't develop that to the 1950s, young adults. Young adults at this time, when they get a hold of the automobile, it is going to be like a brothel on wheels for them. They're not going to be sitting up in the back seat, but they're going to be laying horizontally in the back seat, necking and doing other things. Oh, and so, and a lot of this necking and other things that are going on, that with the help of Margaret Sanger, which we had in our progressive unit, knowing that Margaret Sanger came out with ways to prevent birth of kids, not birth control. Okay, thank you for the visual. Okay, contraceptives. We're not talking about the pill yet. The pill won't be created till the 1950s by a guy named John Rock, who's a Catholic, and he'll be excommunicated from the Catholic Church for developing the pill. That's not to the 1950s. We're talking about education on rhythm methods that, like, there's only certain types of the month that, gosh, we're getting into a science class, that women can only conceive. And so it's just teaching about bodily functions. To get more awkward, Sigmund Freud is going to encourage people at this time, and y'all know Sigmund Freud, if you take in psychology, has some crazy concepts like the id, the superego, and ego, and then like the Oedipus Rex complex, that most boys will marry girls like their mom because they love their mom and they get jealous of their mom and their dad when they're little, and they love their mom, so they're going to marry someone like their mom. Okay, if you haven't, I am pubbing for Miss Luke's psychology class for next semester. You will enjoy it. But the other thing Freud comes up with, that people, if they repress their emotions, they will become mentally ill. Has he just given the blank check to young adults to engage in non-Victorian ways? And so this is why in the 1920s, y'all saw that guy's eyes in the video and y'all were laughing at him, because those girls, they start to engage in behavior that they never engaged before. We're going to see that morality is going to go out in the 1920s because of Sigmund Freud's giving them the blank check saying that if you don't do it, you're going to be mentally ill. Don't tell your parents that, because I'm going to be in a load of trouble and I'll be sitting down in the front office. The other thing that y'all saw was the Ku Klux Klan. And I want to get into this because we know it's a manifestation of intolerance and prejudice. But one of the things that we've seen a lot of is we saw in the the video them walking on the Capitol, right? But it's actually America turning inward at this time. And so question 10, 11, 12, and 13 on your study guide dealt with this issue of immigrants. Remember I called them waves before, right? Do you understand why they're called waves, right? Now, because this is the highest that they're coming in, and then this is our second wave. But the Emergency Quota Act that comes out is going to look at the 1910 census and say we're going to limit and restrict immigration by 3%. So of this 6 million, only 3% will come in, so what happens to the total? It drops, right? And then they look at Northern and Western, of that 9 million, only 3%. So who are we letting in more of in that Emergency Quota Act? Northern, and we're letting in a little bit less of the... But then they realize, those Southern and Eastern Europeans, do we like them? Do we like them? What government are they associated with? Communism. Here's a European immigrant, and he's an anarchist. It threatens liberty. He has a bomb, and if you can see in this hand, he has a sickle. What is sickle? The sickle associated with? The communist flag. And so we begin to fear these immigrants. So the U.S. is going to pass the Immigration Restriction Act of 24, and we go to 1810. In 1810, what is going to happen to the amount if we go to 2%? Are we letting in much Southern and Eastern? No. Who are we letting in more of? And this is America turning inward because we started to associate these immigrants with very dangerous ideas. And it comes down to what happens in Russia with the Bolshevik Revolution. If you don't know that guy with that snazzy little hat, that's Vladimir Lenin. Vladimir Lenin, look at his mouth. What color is it? And we fear the Red Scare, that he's trying to topple autocratic governments, capitalism right here, democracy. And so America turns inward at this time, and we start looking for these immigrants. This is a very loaded image, but this is the Palmer raids. There's Mitchell Palmer. And we're looking for immigrants who have what ideals? Can you find the communist here? The big one? The bombs, packages. And there's some simple immigrants. Hear no evil, see no evil, speak no evil. I'm an immigrant, I just love America. I'm just quilting. And then this was done in 2006, this political cartoon. Okay. What are those supposed to represent? And so what I mentioned in class, we go through this xenophobia. We go through this xenophobia every 100 years. The first time I introduced this was in 1820, and we called it nativism, and we related a party to it. And then now we're in 1920. Do we have xenophobia again? Yes. And now the crazy thing, we're about to get to 2020, and has xenophobia come back again? The wall, those immigrants. And this is every 100 years, and that wall is not a new idea. We've had that wall idea since the 1920s. I'll finish up with intolerance next time.